Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about attention, perception, memory from educational psychology. Disclaimer: the video content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. In the part one, we have gone through the introduction and what is the meaning of attention and the definition of attention and the types of attention like voluntary and the involuntary attention and the nature and the characteristics of the attention like attention is a selective process. Attention is a first step in the mental process of knowing. Attention is a three dimensional. Attention need more adjustment. Attention is not divisible. Attention is fluctuating in nature, and span of attention is limited. And the interesting factors and the interest and the effort played by the significant role. And finally, we move to determinants of attention. Under the determinants of attention, there are two factors like objective factors and subjective factors. Within the objective factors, there are size, intensity, change, contrast, novelty, movement, repetition, and systematic form. Let's see each in detail. Even if a person is not interested in any event or object, certain characteristics of the objects or event may compel him to attend to it. Such subject related factors or external factors of attention. They are the size. The object of big size arrest our attention immediately. The full page advertisement in the newspapers capture our attention more easily than the quarter page advertisement. For the same reason, the people competing in putting up the large cutouts of the political leaders, advertisement hoardings along the roadsides, these are all the size. So the external factors of the attention, the first one is the size. When the size is bigger, the attention will be immediate, like a full page advertisement, cutout of the political leaders, and advertisement hoardings. Next, we are moving to intensity. As the size is to figure, so is the intensity of the quality of stimulus. Stimulus with high intensity, like loud sound, deep striking colors, and pungent smell, are highly successful in attracting our attention. While taking a class, if the teacher raises his tone, he can overcome the disturbance noises coming from outside and retain the attention of his people and the ongoing lesson in the class. So the intensity is like a size, stimulus with a high intensity, like a sound and deep striking colors, pungent smell also will contribute more. While taking the class, if there is a noise and the teacher will raise a noise to overcome. So this is one of the example. A change. Next, we are moving to the change. Whenever there occur a sudden change in the stimulus, it's immediately attract our attention. For example, when the fan suddenly stops, everyone in the class looks up and see the fan. Similarly, a student sleeping in the class wakes up. Student sleeping in the class wake up when the silence suddenly descends on the class. On entering into our house, we quickly notice the changed position of the table, chairs, and the halls. This implies that if the teacher talks with a proper modulation in his voice, he can actually capture the attention of the students. There are so many examples in this part. The change, whenever there occurs a sudden change is in a stimulus, it's immediately attract our attention. The first one is fan suddenly stops, and students who are sleeping suddenly wake up, and changed position of the table in our home, and that if so, it's all says that this implies that if a teacher talks with proper modulation in his voice, he can actually easily capture the attention of the students. Next, we are moving to contrast. When a stimulus present itself as a contrast in the mind of other stimuli, it turned out to be an attention winner. A block dot in a white shirt. The reason for drawing the median line of the tar road with a yellow color, men wearing a deep colored trouser and the light colored shirt, writing on the blackboard with the chalk piece, with the white chalk, is to capture our attention through the contrasting nature of the stimuli involved. To arrest the attention of the students in the class, the teacher should be contrasting activities like lecturing, questioning, using charts and the writing on the blackboard while teaching. So we'll revise the contrast when a stimuli, when a stimulus present itself as a contrast in the midst of other stimuli. When a stimulus present itself as a contrast in the midst of the other stimuli, it turns out to be an attention winner. A black dot on the white shirt, a tar yellow paint on the tar road, writing on the blackboard with white chocolates, and a man wearing a tea color trouser and a light t-shirt. These are all the examples of contrast. So to conclude, the teacher used contrasting activities like lecturing, questioning, using the chart and writing on the blackboard while teaching to arrest the attention of the students. Next, we are moving to novelty. Novelty is instead of putting no admission, admission with permission only, and instead of writing please keep the sufficient distance, don't kiss me please on the lorry backside of the lorry. So novelty is when a stimulus is present in a novel or unusual way, it attracts it attracts the attention of the everyone. When a stimulus is present in a novel or unusual way, when a stimulus is present in a novel or unusual way, it attracts the attention of everyone. For example, we used to see usually the note is no admission in office, but in an office when we see the same notice in a different manner like admission with permission only, it immediately strikes our attention and retained in the memory for long. Similarly, when we see the writing don't kiss me please on the back of the lorry instead of unusual writing like please keep the sufficient distance, it quickly arrests our attention. In a similar way, while teaching in the class, if the teacher, instead of using the example given the textbook, present illustration from his personal experience, instead of giving examples from the textbook, if he is giving from his personal experience to relating to the people immediately, environment, then the students' attention will not get out of the class. So to conclude, when a stimulus is present in a novel or unusual way, it attracts the attention of everyone. Admission with permission only instead of no admission, and please keep the sufficient distance. Instead, use don't keep kiss me please. Given instead of giving examples from the textbooks, the teacher should present the illustrations from his personal experience, and that too relating to the people's immediate environment. Then students' attention will not go out of the class. Next, we are moving to movement. As compared to the stationary objects, moving objects easily attract our attention. For this reason, only the mother of a crying child diverts its attention, points out to the child moving objects like crow, car, aeroplane, and the like. Similarly, to win the attention of the people, advertisers displays holdings with neon lights that alternately lights up and put off so as to give the appearance of the movement. The classroom teacher should you also present stimuli variations like moving to the blackboard to write and moving forward students while questioning, using the appropriate gestures while talking, and win the attention of the people. Let's revise the movement. The crying child, the mother used to point out to the moving crow, car, aeroplane, and the like, and the advertisement board, moving neon lights. The example as compared to the stationary object, moving object easily attract our attention. So the classroom teacher should use also present stimulate variation like moving backward while writing in the blackboard, and moving front towards the students while questioning, and using appropriate gestures while talking, and win the attention of the peoples. Repetition. A stimulus, even of low intensity, if appears repeatedly, it succeeds in winning our attention. The same business advertisement is repeated many times in the mass media like TV and the radio and the newspaper only to attract the attention of customers. The human nature is to notice that stimulus which appears again and again. To focus the attention of the student on any important concept of the lesson, the teacher should explain it 2 or 3 times with the use of different illustration, and that too through different different words, repetitions. A stimulus, even of low intensity, it appears repeatedly. It succeeds in winning our attention. The same business in advertisement is repeated many times in the mass media like TV and radio and newspaper only to attract the attention of the consumers. The human nature is to notice that stimulus which appears again and again, to focus the attention of the students on any important concept of the lesson. The teacher should explain it two or three times with the use of the different illustrations, and that too through different words. So the teacher, to focus the attention of the students on any important concept of the lesson, the teacher should explain it two or three times with the use of different illustrations, and that too through different words. The same like the same business advertisement is repeated many times in the TV, mass media like TV, radio, newspapers, and only to attract the attention of the consumers. Next one is the last one is a systematic form. Objects with systematic form are easily attended to retain long in our memory as compared to the objects which are incomplete, irregular in form. We listen to the faint tune even in noisy surroundings. That's the biggest, it's the correct example to enlist the attention of the students. The teacher, before starting the lesson, should give an overview. Instead of having the object with the systematic forms are easily attended to and retained long in our memory as compared to the objects which are incomplete or irregular. We listen to a faint tune over the noisy surroundings to enlist the attention of the students. The teacher, before starting the lesson, should give the overview of the entire lesson so that the students get a proper and complete idea of the lesson. So let's revise the each and every objective factors: size, intensity, change, contrast, novelty, movement, repetition, systematic form. Size is a full page advertisement and cutout of the political leaders, and advertisements holding large, advertisement holding intensity. Stimulus with high intensity, like loud sound, deep striking colors, and pungent smell. It's the same way while taking the class, a teacher raises his tone. He can overcome the disturbing noises coming from outside and retain the attention of the people on the ongoing lesson in the class. A change, whenever there occurs a sudden change in a stimulus, it's immediately attract our attention, like a fan suddenly stops students sleeping and waking up, changing the position of the table and chairs in the home. This implies that if a teacher takes the proper modulation in his voice, he can easily capture the attention of the students. A contrast, a black dot in a whiteboard, and the yellow color painting on the tar road. Men wearing the deep colored shirt, trouser and a light colored shirt, writing on the blackboard with a white chalk. These are the contrasting examples. To arrest the attention of the students in the class, the teacher should use the contrasting activities like lecturing, questioning, using the chart, or writing on the blackboard while teaching. Well, next we are moving to novelty. Instead of writing admission with no admission, write it as admission with permission only. Similarly, please keep, instead of writing please keep the sufficient distance, write it as don't kiss me please. So when a stimulus is presented in a novel or unusual way, it attract the attention of everyone. In a similar way, while teaching in the class, if the teacher, instead of using the examples given the textbook, if he can give a present illustrations from his personal experience, and that too relating to the people's immediate environment, and then students' attention will not go out of the class. Next one is the movement, where usually the child used to see the movement, as compared to the standard object. Moving objects usually attract our attention. A crying child, mommy, the mommy will show the moving object like crow, car, aeroplane, and the like. And even the advertisement holding the neon lights with that alternative lights up and put off will attract the attention. Similarly, the classroom teacher should be also present stimulus variation, like moving to the blackboard to write and moving friend for questioning, and using appropriate gestures while talking will and win the attention of the people's. Repetitions, a stimulus even of low intensity, it appears repeatedly, it succeed in winning our attention. Like the same business advertisement repeated repeated in the TV, radio, and newspapers repeatedly will attract attention. To focus attention of the students on any important concept of the lesson, the teacher should explain it two or three times with the use of different illustrations on the two through the different words. A systematic form. Example, objects with a systematic form are easily attended to and written long in our memory as compared to the objects which are incomplete or irregular form. We listen to the faint tune, even the noisy surroundings, to enlist the attention of the students. The teacher, before starting the lesson, should give a proper overview of an entire lesson so that the students get a proper, complete idea of the lesson. So, size, intensity, change, contrast, novelty, movement, repetition, and systematic forms are the objective factors. Next, we are moving to the internal factors of attention like interest, need or value, mental set, psychological conditions. The following are some of the important factors of attention which operate from within us. Interest, this plays an important role in electing the attention of the grown up adults. One attends to something when it matters to him intensely, even though none of the objective factors are present. One's interest, which composes one's a dominant motivational system, determine what one attended to. The attention of violin is walking along the bazaar, is stuck at the shop shelling the musical instrument, particularly violin. Every student during the admission to the college applies to the course of his interest. The students develop certain skill on the basis of the interest, like musical, talent, vocational skills, mathematics, ability, scientific talent, etc., get developed on the basis of the interest of the individual students. Interest students keenly observe the lessons in the class. Teachers should always teach in such a way as kindle the interest of the students. So let's repeat, the interest is plays an important role in electing the attention of the grown-up adults. For example, the attention of the violinist is to walking along the bazaar is stuck at the shop selling the musical instrument, particularly the violin. So every student during the admission to the college applies to the skills on the basis of their interest, like musical talent, mathematical ability, occasional skills, science talents, get developed on the basis of the interest of the individual students. The interested students keenly observe the lessons in this class. The teacher should always teach in such a way as to kindle the interest of the students. The need or the value. The another important subjective factors determining the attention is need. For example, the attention of a person waiting for the bus at a particular route will always be restricted to buses of the route of that route only. A hungry person easily spots a name board of a restaurant, even though it is right in the very small size appears dull, but the name board on the nearby bookshop, which is big in size, may not catch his attention. Hence, if the teacher before the student a lesson in the class points out the utility of the concept of, to be taught, and the students will follow the class with much attention. So let's revise the need or the value. Another important subjective factors determining the attention is need. For example, the attention of a person waiting for the bus of a particular route will always be restricted to the bus of that route only. A hungry person easily spots a name board of the restaurant through it is a small, though it is a small in size, appears a dull, but the name board of a nearby bookshop, which is big in size, may not catch his attention. Hence, if the teacher, before starting a lesson in the class, points out the utility of the concept to be taught, then the students will follow the class with much attention. Mental set. One's mental set or the disposition of the readiness to react to the particular stimulus is another subjective factors of attention. For example, the attention of a person who goes to a railway station to receive his friend will always be on spotting the friend in the midst of the others. He may not even hear if somebody nearby call him. The reason for this is that his mind is set only to receive his friend. For this reason only, Herbert stressed the importance of preparing the students for the lessons at the start of the class before actually teaching the lesson. So the mental test. Once the mental set or disposition of the readiness to react to a particular stimulus is another subjective factor of attention. For example, the attention of the person who goes to the railway station to receive his friend will always be on the spotting the friend in the midst of the others. He may not even hear if somebody nearby calls him. The reason for this is that the mind is set only to receive his friend. For this reason, the only Herbert stressed the importance of preparing the student for the lesson at the start of the class before actually teaching the lesson. Physiological condition. The physiological condition of one's body also determine the level of attention. Students suffering from headache, stomachache, fever, etc. will be unable to attend to the lesson taught in the class. It is always better to provide rest for those students who do not feel well instead of compelling them to attend the class. Physiological conditions of one's body also determine the level of attention. So let's revise the entire internal factors of attention. One is interest. This plays an important role in electing the attention on the grown-up adults. Violinist, when he walks in the bazaar, is stuck up with the shop selling the musical instruments. So interested students keenly observe the lesson in the class. Teachers should always teach in such a way as kindle the interest of the students. And every students during the admission to the college, he should choose a course on the basis of the interest like musical talent, vocational skills, mathematical ability, and the science talents. And the second one is need or value. A hungry person easily spots the name board of the restaurant, even if it is right and with a small size and appears dull. But the name of the nearby bookshop, which is a big size, may not catch his attention. So the another important subjective factor. So the mental test. One's mental taste or disposition of the day, readiness to attract to a particular stimulus is another subjective factors of the attention. For example, a railway station, if you are there to receive his friend, will always be on the spotting his friend in the middle of others. For this reason only, Herbert stressed the importance of preparing the students for the lesson at the start of the class before actually teaching the lesson. So Herbert stressed the importance of preparing the students for the lesson. Prepare the students for the lesson instead of the lesson at the start of the class before actually teaching the lesson. Psychological conditions of one's body also determine the level of attention. Like it is always better to provide rest for those students who do not feel well instead of compelling them to attend the class. Ways and means of securing better attention in the class. To secure the attention of pupils, teacher has to first of all remove certain obstacles to the attention. Poor physical condition of the people, fatigue, sensory defects, etc. So we have to remove the poor physical condition to be removed. That is, people fatigue and sensory defects interfere with attention. Unhygienic seating, uncomfortable furniture, inadequate lighting also the hinder the attentions. Okay, the teacher has to make a good use of objective factors of attention in the class, like loud voice, striking diagrams, clear blackboard work, use of colored chalks, varied activities, novel illustrations, repetition of basic ideas are also such nature. All the elementary stages, the teacher has to appeal to the involuntary attention by using the concrete aids, direct experience, play activities, appealing to the children's curiosity, etc. At the middle school level, teachers can use suitable techniques of motivation by stimulating acquired interest of the people, their hobbies, to evoke voluntary attention and foster sentiments of love for various school subject and activities. At the adolescent level, the voluntary attention has to be evoked by appealing to the long-term interest of the students and banking on their self-regard. During classroom teaching, the teacher has to tell his people what to attend to at the stage of introduction itself by providing the overview of the lesson. While explaining the new concept, a teacher should relate it to the previous knowledge of the students and give examples which are familiar to them, preferably spotting them from the day-to-day life situations. The teacher should harness the natural interest of people to the classroom and also create a new interest of the educational value. The children's interests vary with the age, but generally all the children are interested in creative, productive, free and life like activities. So there is need for the play method, a project discovering approach to teaching activity based on the curriculum. Let's revise the ways and means of securing better attention in the class. To secure the attention of the people, teacher has to remove all the certain obstacles to the attention, like poor physical conditions to be removed, unhygienic seating, uncomfortable furniture, inadequate lighting also hinder the attention. And second thing is the teacher has to make a good use of the objective factors of the attention in the class, like loud noise, striking diagrams, colored charts, clear blackboard work, everything. At the elementary stage, and the third one, at the elementary stage, the teacher has to appeal to the involuntary attention by using the concrete aids, direct experience, play activities, appealing to the children's curiosity. At the middle level, the school teacher can use suitable techniques of motivating by stimulating the accord. It is their hobbies to work voluntary attention on the foster sentiments of the love of various school subject activities. At the adolescent level, the voluntary attention has to be about appealing to the long-term interest of the students, banking on their self-regard. So we have to classify into three: elementary stage, like a direct experience and play activities; middle school, as by stimulating the acquired interest of the people and their hobbies. At the adolescent level, the voluntary attention, the long-term interest of the students and banking on their self-regard. During classroom teaching, the teacher has to tell his people what to attend to at the stage of introduction itself by providing the overview of the lesson. While explaining a new concept, the teacher should relate it to the previous knowledge of the students and give examples which are familiar to them, preferably spotting them from day-to-day life situations. The teacher should harness the natural interest of the people to the class lesson and also create new interest of the education level. Education value. Children's interests vary with the age, but generally all children are interested in creative, productive, free and lifelike activities. So there is a need for the playway method, playway method, project discovering approach to teaching activity based on curriculums. So there is the children's interest vary with the age, but generally all the children are interested in creative, productive and free lifelike activities. So nowadays, all the children are very interested in creative, productive, and free lifelike activities. So we need a playway method, projects, discovery approach to teachings. Let's next we are moving to sensory organ sensation. It is said that the sense organs are the gateways of the human knowledge. As we get the information and knowledge about the external world only through our sense organs, we establish contact with the world around us by seeing, hearing something, smelling, smelling, tasting, and touching, and other the appropriate reactions towards the different objects, person, or events, etc. Sensation produced by different sense organs are indicated below. Visual stimulus is eye, oral visual inspection, seeing auditory stimulus, ear or auditory sensation, hearing the fragrance and odor, imatic stimulus, nose, olfactory, smelling, taste stimulus, tongue, gustatory sensation, tasting the tactical stimuli, skin, tactical sensation, and feeling of touch. Let's start with okay. So just we will revise the sensory organ sensation. It is said the sense organs are the gateway of the human knowledge, as we get the information knowledge about the external only through our the sense organs. So we all know that the sense organs are the gateways of the human knowledge. We get the information and knowledge about the external world only through the sense organs. We establish contact with the world around us by seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and adapt the appropriate reaction towards different objects, persons, or events. Next, we are moving to sensation. Sensation is the immediate result of the sense organs being acted upon by appropriate stimuli. They are the various quality. The sensation is the immediate result of a sense. Sensation is the immediate result of the sense organ being acted upon by appropriate stimuli. Sensation is the immediate result of a sense organ being acted upon by the appropriate stimuli. They are the various qualities of experience that are delivered from the stimulation of the sense organs or receptors. Sensations are qualitative difference experienced by us with reference to quantitative stimuli that impinge on our sense organs. The stimuli are the energy waves that produce an experience, and these are transformed by the sense organs into pulses of energy into the nervous system. Next is perception. Perception is a physiological process in which sensory inputs received from the sensation organs are processed or organized, interpreted based on the past experience of the organs so that the nature of the stimuli are meaningfully understood. Perception is a psychological process in which sensory inputs received from the sense organs are processed, organized, interpreted based on the past experience of the organisms so that the nature of the stimuli are meaningfully understood. Perception is a physiological process in which the sensory inputs are received from where sensory organs. What it is going to be done, processed, organized, interpreted based on the past experience. of the organism so that the nature of the stimuli are meaningfully understood. So, perception is a psychological process in which sensory inputs received from the sensory organs are processed, organized, and interpreted based on the past experience of the organism so that the nature of the stimuli are meaningfully understood. Perception is the process of transforming sensory inputs to which we attend into an organized impression that we experience. So it's a process of transforming the sensory inputs to which we attend into organized impression that we experience. The mental interpretation of sensations results in the perception. So perception is nothing but sensation plus meaningful interpretation. Perception is nothing but a sensation plus a meaningful interpretation. For example, a smell we experience due to the burning of the object is sensation. Understanding that burning object is rubber is perception. For this perception to occur, we should have already experienced the smell due to the burning of rubber and retaining it in our memory. Perception is a psychological process in which sensory input received from the sense organs or processed, organized, interpreted based on the past experience of the organism, so the nature of the stimuli are meaningfully understood. Perception is a process of transferring the sensory inputs to which we attend into organized impressions. It's a transforming, okay? It's a process of transforming the sensory input to organized impressions that we experience. The mental perception of sensation is equal to perception equal to sensation plus meaningful interpretation. For example, the smell we experience due to the burning of an object is a sensation, and understanding that burning object is a rubber is perception. For this perception to occur, we should have already experienced the smell due to burning of rubber retaining it in our memory. It's a burning rubber. That too, how we know? It's like we already know the smell of a burning rubber. Determinants of the perceptions, the stimuli present in one's environment produce sensation. They constitute the objective elements of the perceptions. The stimuli present in one's environment produce sensation. They constitute the objective element of perception. The interpretation given for the sensation are due to the subjective elements of perception. The mental set, concept previously associated with the sensory inputs, attitudes, ongoing needs, etc., all influence our perpetual experience. That is why the same stimulus is pursued differently by different person. The external objects stimulating the sense organ, the objective factors plus subjective interpretation of the senses and received from the sense organs is equal to perception. So determinants of perception, the stimuli present in one's environment produce sensation and they constitute the objective element of the perceptions. The interpretation given for the sensation are due to subjective elements of perceptions, the mental set, the concept previously associated with sensory input, attitude, and ongoing needs, etc. All influence our perpetual experience. That is why the same stimulus is perceived different by differing persons. The external object stimulating the sense organ, that is objective factors, plus subjective interpretation. External object plus subjective interpretation. Subjective interpretation of the sensation received from the sense organs. So external object stimulating the sense organ, that objective factors plus subjective factors is equal to perceptions. So objective factors plus objective factors plus subjective factors is equal to perceptions. Using one's past experience, the mental set, ongoing need, interest, attitude, suggestion, and expectations. The Gardner Murphy speaks out of the follow speaks out. Gardner Murphy speaks of the following four factors of perception: that is, sensation, nervous structure capable of or sensitive to the difference in nature and strength of the sensation, our previous experience, and mental set at the time of expressing sensation. Gordon Murphy, very simple, speaks of the following four factors: one is sense, nervous structure, and our previous experience and mental set. Sensation, nervous structure, and previous experience and the mental set, or the time of experiencing the sensation. So Gordon Murphy speaks of the following four factors of perception: that is, sensation and the nervous structure capable of or sensitive to difference in nature and strength of the sensation, our previous experiences, and the mental set at the time of experiencing the sensations. These are the Gordon Murphy's thing. The loss of a perpetual perceptual organization. Laws of perceptual organization. Following are the important laws governing the perpetual organization. Law of pregnance, law of proximity, law of similarity, law of closure, law of continuity. So, what are the laws of perceptual organization? A law of pregnance, proximity, similarity, closure, and continuity. First, we'll start with law of pregnance. According to Gestalt, the perpetual organization is governed by the law of pregnance. Pregnance means compact but significant. Pregnance means compact but significant. In perceiving, we do not add the different senses and received and edit them so as to get meaningful interpretations of the object perceived. We always perceive anything as a whole configuration or pattern so that it is simple, meaningful, and stable. For example, on seeing a man riding a cycle, we do not perceive the cycle, the ride, and the rider separately. It appears as a whole unit to us. The, the mental act of organizing take place during the perception as per the law of pregnance. Similarly, on seeing the following figure, we do not say as a collection of circle, triangle, square, rectangle, arc, etc. Instead, we say it as a human face. Thus, we perceive everything as a whole and not its parts and bits. Let's revise the laws of pregnancy according to Gestalt's Gestalts. The perceptual organization is governed by the law of pregnancy. Pregnancy means compact but significant. In perceiving, we do not in perceiving, we do not add different sensations received and edit them so as to get a meaningful interpretation of the object perceived. We always perceive anything as a whole configuration or pattern of it. It is simple, meaningful, and stable. For example, on seeing a man riding a cycle, we do not perceive the cycle and rider separately. It appears as a whole unit to us. The mental act of organizing takes place during the perception as per the law of presence. The mental act of organizing takes place during the perception as per the law of presence. Similarly, on seeing a picture, we do not see the collection of circle, triangle, square, rectangle. We see as a human face. Thus, we perceive everything as a whole and not as part and bits and pieces. Next one is law of proximity. According to the law, the perceptual groups are favored according to the nearness of the parts. This means that we perceive all closely situated or located things as a group. Similarly, the 12 parallel lines down below are perceived by us as four groups of three lines. Law of proximity. According to this law, perceptual groups are favored according to the nearness of the parts. According to this law, perceptual groups are favored according to the nearness of the parts. Perceptual groups are favored according to the nearness of the parts. This means that we perceive all closely situated or located things as a group. This means that we perceive all closely situated or located things as a group. Similarly, the 12 parallel lines draw below are perceived by us as a four groups of three lines. Law of similarity. Wertheimer, Wertheimer, Wertheimer stated this law as other things being equal. The stimulus that are similar will have greater tendency to be grouped as a single unit. Other things being equal, the stimulus that are similar will have a greater tendency to be grouped as a single unit. For example, in a figure A, we perceive the objects in three horizontal groups: triangle, circle, and squares. Whereas in the figures B, using the same law of similarity, we perceive the objects in three vertical groups. So, law of similarity, Wertheimer stated these laws as other things being equal and stimuli that are similar will have a greater tendency to be grouped as a single unit. In a figure A, we will have groups on the three horizontal groups, and the second figure we are grouping it as verticals. The law of closure, the law indicates that closed or complete figures are more stable than incomplete or unclosed figures, and hence our mind fills up the gaps if any perceive the object as a whole and complete. Law of closure, the law indicates that closed or complete figures are more stable than incomplete or unclosed figures, and hence our mind fills up the gaps if any and perceive the object as a whole and complete. For example, we pursue the figure given here as triangle through there are gaps between the lines. For this reason only, will proof reading missing letters escape from our attention as our minds fills up the gaps and read it correctly. Similarly, when we read a letter written by us, we overlook the mistakes in it. But if the letters given by others and and read, they immediately notice the mistakes. So the law of closure, we always look for more stable things, the incomplete and unclosed figures. Hence, our minds will fill up the gaps. If any, for example, we pursue the figure given here as triangle, but there are gaps between the lines. For the reason only the while proofreading missing letters and escape our attention as our mind fills the gaps and read correctly. Similarly, when we read a letter written by us, we look we look the mistakes in it, but if the letter is given to others and read, they immediately notice the mistakes. The law of closure best example is this triangle with the gaps. Our mind will fill up the gaps. Yes. Similarly, when we read a letter written by us, we overlook the mistakes in it. But if the letters is given to others and read, they immediately notice the mistakes. So law of good continuation. It indicates that organization with perception appear to go infinitely in the same direction. So there is a tendency for factors to give direction, movement, and then continuation. It is why the following series of dots appear to be straight line. For this reason, the only cinema scenes through those shot individually, when they run in the sequence at the rate of 15 frames per second, they appear to be one and continuous. Errors in perceptions, there is illusion and hallucination. Our perception is not always true and accurate. Sometimes the errors do creep in our perceptions when our mind wrongly interpret the sensory input, which is otherwise known as illusion. Our perception is not always true and accurate. Sometimes the errors do creep in our perceptions. Errors do creep in our perceptions when our mind wrongly interpret the sensory inputs, which is otherwise known as illusion. Our perception is not always true and accurate. Sometimes the errors do creep in our perception when our mind wrongly interpret the sensory input, which is otherwise known as illusion. Illusion are the strong or mistaken perceptions which fail to correspond with the situation as objectively assessed. Illusion arises either because of the ambiguous quality of what is perceived or the state of perceiving the person or both. So illusion can be by two. Illusion arises either because the ambiguous qualities of what is perceived or the state of perceiving person or both. Illusion arises either because of the ambiguous qualities of what is perceived or the state of perceiving person or both. For example, during night we mistake a rope lying in the backyard for a snake. Similarly, to a person searching for a missing round 50 pies nickel coin, even a small round tin plate will appear to be the coin. Tree appears to be moving around to a passenger for a moving train. Appearance of our stationary train moving slowly when the other train nearby starts moving are all due to illusions, and illusions are of different type. One is illusion of movement, illusion of perspectives, reversible perspective figures, Muller layer illusions, and vertical horizon illusion, and optical illusions. Illusions, there are five examples. One is during night we mistake the rope as a snake and missing 50 pies nickel coin. Every small tin plate also will look like that, and trees appear to be moving around to the passenger moving. So there are five examples for illusion. One is a person searching for the missing, for example, during the night we mistake a rope lying in the backward as a snake. A person searching for a missing round 50 pies nickel coin. Even the tin plate will look like a coin. Tree appears to be moving around to a passenger of a moving train. Appearance of the stationary train moving slowly when the other train nearby stop moving are all due to illusions. And illusion is nothing but illusions are the wrong or mistaken perceptions which failed to correspond with the situation as objectively assessed. Illusions are the wrong or mistaken perceptions which fail to correspond with the situation as objectively assessed. Illusions are the wrong or mistaken perceptions which failed to correspond with the situation as objectively assessed. Illusions arises mainly due to the ambiguous qualities or what is perceived or a state of perceiving persons or both. Illusions, there are different types. Illusion of movement, a spot of light in a dark appears to be moving around. Illusion of perspectives, two parallel lines appear to meet at a long distance. Reversible perspective figures, Muller layer illusions, and vertical horizontal illusions, and optical illusions. Some of the visual illusions are given below in figure 1, 2, and 3, and 4, which is longer, which is shorter. Next, we are moving to hallucination. Hallucination is a false perceptions. It's a different from illusion in that it has no sensory basis. It's a dream-like image, often mistaken for perceptions. Hallucination is a false perception. It is a different from illusion in that it has no sensory basis. It is a dream-like image, often mistaken for perception. For example, the phenomenon of mirage, spotting a ghost on the tamarind tree in the outskirts of the village, hearing the tapping sound of the house door, hearing the anklet sound of an angel, are all due to hallucinations. So, the example of hallucinations, spotting a ghost on the tamarind tree in the outskirts of the village, hearing the tapping sound of the house door, and hearing the anklet sound of the angel, are all due to hallucinations. Illusions do have apparent external stimuli, but hallucinations do not have stimuli object. Illusions do have apparent external stimuli, but hallucinations do not have a stimulus object. All experience illusions, but few, generally mentally ill, and those under the influence of drugs, experience hallucinations. The same situation arouses the same illusion in all objects, all subjects, but hallucinations occur under particular circumstances in different individuals. Hallucination is a false perception. It is different from illusion in that it has no sensory basis and it is a dream-like image often mistaken for perception. For example, the phenomenon of mirage, spotting a ghost on the tamarind tree in the outskirts of the village, hearing the tapping sound of the house door, hearing the anklet sound of an angel, etc., are all due to hallucinations. Illusions do have apparent external stimuli, but hallucinations do not have stimuli objects. All experience illusions, but few generally mentally ill, and those under the influence of drugs experience hallucinations. The same situation arises the same illusion in all objects, but hallucinations occur under particular circumstances in different individuals. Meaning of memory: a layman may define the memory simply as a capacity to reproduce what is learned. A layman may define memory simply as a capacity to reproduce what is learned. Psychologically, it is much more complex. Psychologists prefer the word remembering to memory. Remembering is an active process of mental search. Remembering refers to retention of what is learned, retrieving it when it is required for subsequent use. Remembering consists of three stages or phases. They are learning or memorizing, retention or storing, retrieving or gaining access to it. What is the meaning of memory? A layman may define the memory simply as a capacity to reproduce what is learnt. A layman may define memory simply as the capacity to reproduce what is learnt. The capacity to reproduce what is learned, that is memory. Psychologically, it is more complex. Psychologists prefer the word remembering to memory. Remembering is an active process of mental search. Remembering refers to retention of what is learned and retrieving it when it is required for subsequent use. Remembering, for a layman term, capacity to reproduce what is learned, that is memory. For psychologists, uh, remembering refers to retention of what is learned and retrieving it when it is required for the subsequent use. Remembering consists of three stages or phases. They are learning or memorizing, assimilation, and retention or storing, and retrieving or gaining access to its recall or recognitions. Learning depends on nature of learning material, nature of learner, and learning methods. Nature of learning material, nature of learners, and learning methods. If you see the nature of learners, there are physical conditions, intelligence, interest, and motivations and need. Learning methods is rote learning or meaningful learning, spaced or mass learning, whole part learning, and associative learning. The nature of learning material, length or amount of meaningfulness, complex and associations. Next, we are moving to kind of memory. Memory can be incidental or intentional. Intentional memory, which involves closer attention paid to the material memorized, greater rehearsal, and greater tendency to categorize material, find relationship, and associate between items. Let's move on to kind of memory. Memory can be incidental or intentional. Intentional memory, which involves closer attention paid to the material memorized, greater rehearsal, and a greater tendency to categorize material and find relationship and association between items, is superior to the casual remembrance of observed event, which is incidental memory. So memory can be incidental or intentional. Intentional memory, which involves closer attention paid to the material memorized, greater rehearsal, and greater tendency to categorize material, find relationship and association between the items, is superior to a casual remembrance of observed events, which is incidental memory. Incidental memory is nothing but a casual remembrance of observed event. Casual remembrance of observed event is called incidental memory. Casual remembrance of observed event. Whereas intentional memory is involves closer paid attention, material memorized, greater rehearsal, greater tendency to categorize materials and find the relationship and associations between the items. Memory can also be classified in terms of degree to which it resembles the original perceptions as vivid memory or indistinct memory. Vivid memory or indistinct memory. Indistinct memories influence our behavior without our awareness. Influence our behavior without our awareness. Indistinct memories influence our behavior without awareness. Without our awareness, memory can be classified in terms of the degree to which it resembles the original perceptions as vivid memory or indistinct memory. Indistinct memories influence our behavior without our awareness. Memory can be observational memory or rote memory. Observational memory is of the concrete objects and events, and rote memory is for words and symbols. Yeah, generally, by memory, we seem to refer to rote memory, and verbal learning implies these aspects. Memory can be observational memory or rote memory. Observational memory is of concrete objects and events, evidence of witness to the bomb explosion, that is a concrete evidence. Rote memory is for the word of symbols. General by memory, we seems to refer to the rote memory and verbal learning. Verbal learning implies this aspect. Memory can also be classified in terms of duration of the retention period, a short memory and long-term memory. So the kind of memories we can incidental or intentional or vivid or indistinct, observational or rote, and short-term and long-term. Incidental and intentional is a casual remembrance is called incidental. Full attention, material memorizing, rehearsal, categorize, and finding relations and association is all like intentional memory. Vivid memory and indistinct memory. Indistinct memories are influence our behavior without our awareness. Memory can be observational memory or rote memory, whereas observational memory is of the concrete object, like evidence of witness to the bomb explosion. Rote memory is for the words and symbols, and memory can also be classified in terms of duration of the retention period. Duration of retention period, that is the short-term memory and long-term memory. Let's see each short-term memory and long-term memory in details. The short-term memory, also called called primary or working memory, lasts for 15 to 30 seconds. We remember a telephone number till we get the connection. Short-term memory, also called primary or working memory, lasts for only 15 or 30 seconds. We remember a telephone number till we get the connection. That's it. That is called short-term memory. We look to a telephone directory, and if you are the phone number after a few hours, experimental evidence shows that only 7 plus or minus 2 separate items can be held in a short-term memory at one time, referred to as a memory span. So, either 9, 5 to 9, you can say, can be held. Can be held in shorter memory at a one time, referred to as memory span. Primary memory is not the terminal point. Information is being transformed to the long term memory for more permanent storage. The multiplication tables, we have learned the poem, we have memorized our date of birth, wedding day, or our telephone number, the residential address are permanently remembered because of our long term memory. So, multiplication tables, poems, we have memorized birth date, the wedding day, and telephone numbers, residential address are all permanently remembered because of our long term memory. More time and efforts are essential for moving information to long-term storage, while the capacity of short-term memory is limited. The capacity of long-term is unlimited. The capacity of short-term is limited. Long-term is unlimited. The information passed on the long-term is placed on the organized, categorized, where it resides almost permanently. very categorized, organized, and resides almost permanently. There appears to be different brain process of short-term memory and long-term memory. The transfer from short-term memory and long-term memory takes place not only because of the rehearsal repetition, but because of the coding, which is the process of analyzing the informations and compressing it into abbreviated form. The operations and control process are affected by the brain in dealing with the input information passed on to it by the receptors of our sensory organs with respect to the short-term memory and long-term memory seems to be different as illustrated with the following diagram. The memory model based on the information processing systems, long-term memory operations related to LTM analysis